On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the Avs signed their top prospect and Calum Ritchie to his entry-level contract. So he got a chance to play this season. Let's talk about it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, today, sir, we're going to get to something the Dallas Stars are doing that the Avalanche should do. Are we giving credit to the Stars here? Wow. We'll get to that a little bit later. Special guest in segment number 2, Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators joins us for a segment that we recorded the other day with him. And he talks about, Ross is dialed in with the Sens. So he talks about our 2 new players that came over from Ottawa. We get some info on those guys directly from Ross. What's he think about how they can do in Colorado? We'll talk about that. Where we are going to start today, sir, is like I said in the opening, and Callum Ritchie has signed his entry-level contract. We kind of thought this was coming, and we kind of figured like it maybe has taken a little bit longer than expected to get it done, because we're all like, oh, we know it's getting done. I think the Avs are just taking their time with it for whatever reason. There's a lot that goes into a contract, and maybe they just had to iron out all the details. They did. And he's signed. He's their top prospect. I said in the opening, like, will he play this year? Yes, he will play this year, but we'll get into the finer details of this stuff, because players coming from where he's coming from in the Canadian Hockey League, it's a little bit different with how contracts work. We'll get a bit into that, but just your thoughts on Calum Ritchie signing the contract. They get their top prospect signed and done with.
It's a huge deal for the Avs. We know what he has potentially, and the rumblings and the mumblings and the bumblings out of camp have been, hey, this guy looks good. What's going on with him? So when this signing happened, I mean, good grief, the kid had 80 points in 50 games last year, and he missed 17 games. So this is kind of what you're wanting. And ELC, it's that means on the cheap. For all those who don't know, like, so if you're asking, like, he's 19, so what can he bring to the Avs? He's 6'2". It's not like a skyscraper, and he's not short, so he's about average. So 19-year-old, about 6'2", could score. We're talking about depth for the Avs. This could be something the Avs are going to be looking at and relying on deeper in the season.
Yeah, I mean, everything you heard from development camp was he was just a man amongst boys.
Yeah.
And you expect that. You know what I mean? Like that's what your number one prospect is supposed to do. And, you know, I don't get development camp is cool. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing what comes out of that. But I think sometimes, a lot of times, people will take it a little bit too, I don't even know if too far is the right phrasing for it, but it's just like, our best guys are ready. Sign them and let's get them going. They're not playing against, you know, who they're going to be playing against on a regular basis. But what Richie did at development camp was exactly what you want him to do. Just take over. And the clips that I was seeing coming from it, like, he is a smooth skater. He's got an offensive touch. Like, it just seemed like he was ready. You know what I mean? Like, what is the point in keeping him with Oshawa for another year, and just the player himself? Like, you go back to the draft, and he was 27th, which kind of fell into the Avalanche lap, and a lot of it was because of injuries.
Yeah,
And, you know, he was one of those guys where a lot of people, if he had not had those injuries, a lot of people had him in the top 15, no doubt. But the injuries kind of scared some teams away. And the Avalanche were in that position where you take a chance on a guy like that because you don't get that level of talent at that late in the first round. And the Avs weren't gonna let him go. And so far it's looking like it's working out, but we haven't got him at the NHL level yet. But I think, all the signs are pointing that the trajectory that he's on is a really good one for himself. And obviously that in turn benefits the Avalanche as a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, in 3 years in the O, he's over a point a game. Like he's at like 187
By far.
out of 174 games and for Oshawa.
Well, if you want to count, I mean, yeah, like the let's see. So his first year with him, 65 games, 45 points. That's his first year. So you got getting it. Second year, exactly a point per game, 59 games played, 59 points. And then he just blew up this last year. 50, like you said, 50 games played, 80 points in the playoffs, 21 points, or excuse me, 21 games played in the playoffs, 30 points. So he has found his game.
And it's not a selfish game either. It's more apples than goals. And that's honestly, if you're a 19-year-old and you're going to be joining possibly the Colorado Avalanche this year, this is what you want to see. You don't want to see somebody who's got that scoring touch and wants to command the presence. If you can assist those that are around you and help move that offensive pressure, this is what the Avs will need. And again, to reiterate, it's on the cheap. So it's not going to break the bank. Like, I know the Avs are playing with money they don't have right now, and that's a conversation for another day. But this is a depth pickup and signing for the Avs that they desperately need right now. And it gives you a little taste at the future that, honestly, we haven't been cultivating and curating that much yet. So this will give you a good glimpse on the future Avalanche.
What do you think well, let's get into that. Like the way that ELCs work, just for people that aren't so up to date on stuff like that, it's a 3-year contract. It's their first contract. They have a 9-game buffer period to work with. After 9 games, this contract kicks into gear. So if the Avs start him right in game 1 and only play, I don't want to say him. I'll get to him in a second. Regular prospects, if they play them 5 games to start or any time during the season, and say like, you're right, maybe he's not ready yet, let's bring him back down to the AHL. That contract doesn't kick in because he didn't get to that 9-game minimum, or I guess maximum, if you want to say it that way. Basically, if you go over 9 games, the contract kicks in, and now it's year 1 of the 3 years. With Richie and him playing in one of the Canadian hockey leagues, they have a different agreement with the NHL. It's a little bit weird in that it's either the NHL or back to where he's playing in the OHL. He cannot go down to the AHL. So the Avs have to make a decision after up to 9 games. If he's the right guy, he stays. Or I should say, if he's the right guy, or if they feel like he is progressing or the way they want him to progress, then they keep him, and that contract is kicked into gear, and away you go. If not, he's got to go back to where he was playing. He can't go to the Eagles. So that's where it just gets a little bit weird with an ELC and a player coming from a Canadian hockey league, but that's where they are, and that's a bridge that they'll have to cross, and that's they'll figure all that out. But it's not just, you can't just go put him back in the minors and let him get some time in with them, because you can't do it with a guy coming from the league that he's coming from.
And honestly, with his numbers, with his production, with his size, with him being 19, I feel like this is going to be a Ben Myers thing towards garbage time. You're going to see those games towards the end of this year.
I disagree, sir.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because I don't think they would have bothered to sign this if they were going to just wait it out until the end of the year. So all of the spring training battles that you're going to see are all depth stuff. And that's where he's probably going to start. But he's not going to stay there. And that's the other part that gets really interesting in this is he's your number one prospect. He's expected to do some really good things and kind of rise up this depth chart. Where's he fit long term? Where's he fit? Because obviously you got McKinnon. He's not going anywhere. You signed Casey Middlestat. You have a lot of expectations for him. Ross Colton's your third guy. I mean, you would expect sooner or later he's going to overtake Ross Colton, but Colton's good in that spot. I mean, down the middle, if he starts game one as your fourth line center, even though he's a rookie and 19 years old, you feel pretty good about all four of those positions.
No, you love what you have coming in, but again, that raises question marks on what are you going to like? What games does he play? If it's front end or back end of the season, what does this mean for Ross Colton? Is he automatically good enough to just go in and know we're burning this ELC? We know how it's going to go. And he's going to be a member of the fourth line center. Like,
I mean, you usually don't get that with your top prospects of burying them on the fourth line because you want them to get a little bit more experience than that.
Then it goes back to, does Colton, is there something there? It raises a lot of questions and makes preseason interesting to see what we get going out of Callum Richie, but it raises a lot of questions. It's all positive because this is something the Avalanche desperately need, and they're building towards the future. And next year, you got Mikko's deal coming up. Looking forward, this is the kind of piece that you need, and it's good that the Avalanche have him signed and locked up.
Yeah, it's good. We've turned to kind of good problems to have.
Yeah,
for the Avs, and you don't want just 12 guys, and those are 12 guys, and then the guys that would replace them is just a revolving door. Like, you have some pretty good battles that are gonna have to get sorted out in training camp, and this is another one. We talked about the third defensive pairing. That is one. Your depth got your fourth line. That's and Richie just adds to that. So I don't know if he's a favorite. I'm sure he's going to be a fan favorite because people want to see guys like him with the ability that he has and where he stands as a prospect. People want to slap those guys in and just see them just take over and be what you expect them to be as a first round draft pick.
Yeah,
so that doesn't always work out. The Tyson Josts of the world, but. But you just get a vibe that Richie is built a little bit different, and you just get a vibe that this is going to work out. At least I do.
And honestly, CMAC needs this win because when was the last time this has happened? Where's Newhook right now? Like, you need something to pay off when it comes to prospect and development.
Well, you definitely do. And I had this conversation with someone online, and talking about how the Avs have been struggling to develop guys, and I said, well, if we're all going to get on Chris McFarland's case, this really is his first pick as GM. So all the stuff that came before Callum Ritchie, while McFarland was involved, he wasn't the GM solely. This is his draft. Callum Ritchie.
And you froze there. And this is also going to be Cogliano as well. His first little instance of, working with development. So it's going to be interesting to see all of that come into play as well.
That is true. Yep. That is true. And Frankie doing some goalie stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Gotta love that. All right. So it's kind of exciting to see that he's signed and where this goes. What we're going to get to next is we like I said, we recorded a segment with Ross Levitan of Locked On Sens. And like I said, he's dug in with what's going on in Sens Nation in Ottawa. And the two new players that the Avalanche brought in, Erik Brannstrom and Parker Kelly, gives us his take on those two guys, why it didn't work out in Ottawa, and if he thinks that they will work out in Colorado. So we will get to that after this. First, let's hear from FanDuel. And Kyle and I, of course, we love sports. We love them so much that we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs are all over with in the NHL and the NBA, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like we want them to. But with FanDuel, they let us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we got to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime that we are in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, welcome back. And joining us now, host of Locked On Senators, Ross Levitan, is with us to kind of inform us on the new acquisitions that the Avalanche picked up straight from Ottawa. So, Ross, what's going on, man? First of all, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Always happy to see you guys up on my screen and get to visit with you. It's a treat, and I'm kind of jealous you guys getting to cover a team like Colorado over the last couple of years. Stanley Cup in there, getting to watch one of the most electric players in the league, two of them even with Makar and McKinnon. So no, it's awesome, and happy to be here for a couple. I know you threw it to me a little down. I think these are two guys that could help the bottom part of the lineup for the Avalanche next year.
Okay, that's kind of what I want to hear. What are you thinking, Kyle? You have a look right now.
I definitely have a question between the two, and there's some concerns. And I mean, you definitely pump the tires on the Avalanche a little bit, but I know what Brannstrom and Kelly can bring, but do they fit with the Avalanche is my question.
Yeah, it's a good question, right? You gave up a bit of size here with what you had last playoffs, at least. Like Parker Kelly's no Brandon Duhaime or anybody who's going to, be a little bit more, in your face, although he does have that in them. So as I look at the Avalanche lineup, I see them fitting in as fourth line and third pair, but with the opportunity that if a guy goes down injured or gets suspended or can't play, I do think both of these guys could have the ability to step up. The last couple of years, I'll touch on Erik Brannstrom here. Thomas Chabot has not been able to stay healthy. It seems like there's a 20 to 30 game sample size each of the last 3 years that he's not available. And in those situations, when Erik Brannstrom has gone into the top four, he hasn't looked necessarily out of place. Defensively, he's never going to clear the crease. He's never going to be a guy to bully in front of the net, but he has improved in a lot of areas. So I'm curious what a fresh start's going to do for him, because Erik Brannstrom had all the weight in the world on his shoulders when he came to Ottawa. He was a part of that infamous Mark Stone trade over to Vegas. You get Erik Brannstrom, a prospect, and a second round pick, not a first round pick, second round pick. So you're like, oh, we didn't get a first because the value for Erik Brannstrom is so high. GM Pierre Dorion at the time called it his proudest day as GM, being able to get Erik Brannstrom. No pressure kid, 19 years old at the time, just had 4 goals in 4 games at the World Juniors, captain of Team Sweden. But Ottawa rushed him to the NHL, and he just isn't dynamic enough to be a 5'9" defenseman in a top 4 over the course, and Ottawa put so much pressure on him there. So I wonder, with a little weight off his shoulders, boys, that he might find his place, like you have written over in the rundown.
Yeah, because that's I watched your show, and you kind of like went over. I think it was like almost doing like season grade type of things.
Yeah.
And it was almost like he fits into one of 3 categories amongst Sens fans, and it's people who haven't lost hope in him, people who have, and people who want to see a little bit more from him. So like I wrote, has he found his place yet? Because it didn't seem like he did in Ottawa. So what makes you think? I mean, is it just fit? Is it just one of those things where he didn't fit in Ottawa? That doesn't mean he can't fit somewhere. And Kyle and I, when they brought him on, said, could this be Jonathan Drouin version 2.0? Is it system?
Yeah, I'd say a bit system. Like I said, he's never going to be a big physical presence. Frankly, he's the opposite of that, but he's always been undersized, right? So he knows how to kind of evade a little bit. We had a running gag on Locked On Sens at the start of his career where it's like, how many times is he going to get rocked tonight? He got hit hard, and credit to him, he never stayed down. This guy is very tough. I think he's been in 2 NHL fights, and both of them, like, you're like almost like, whoa, like Brandy can do that? He can throw hands a little bit. But obviously that's not his game. But he's been a lot better at absorbing contact now, and even kind of playing off of it. Any good defenseman that wants to break pucks out of their zone, you're going to have to get kind of that yak yardage in the football, right? You get hit a bit, but no, you maintain possession and you keep going. So I think he's kind of finding his way there. But again, he's coming in here with low expectations, $900,000 deal. He was at $2 million last year. That's the main reason why Ottawa didn't qualify him, right? They would have had to guarantee that $2 million salary. And as value became, it was less than half of that he went. So there's going to be less pressure on him there. And I think he's so well insulated in the Avalanche decor. I don't know what the pairs are going to look like. Obviously, it's a little premature to project
He'll probably
that
be
this
with
time.
Dahan. It'll probably
Dahan?
be
Okay, well, you got a defensively reliable guy. I mean, he's not the most oversized player either, but he's kind of got that veteran savviness that I think could help him. But the old saying in Ottawa is Branny moves pucks, and he does that well. He's got a great outlet pass, and he'll pull off the odd highlight reel too. Like he danced, I think it was Tampa Bay 2 years ago. He had 2 goals in a game against Calgary, and I think he had 2 goals all year. But like he has these little moments where he like snaps into a solid top 4 defenseman. I think that's why I haven't given up hope with him, and the fact that he's only turning 25, so he's kind of entering that what should be the prime of his career.
And Avs fans are kind of used to undersized defensemen, making a statement with Sam Girard on this roster as well. He's kind of adapted his game, and hopefully we're going to see the same thing out of Brandy. But you gotta really, really convince me here, because Brannstrom has more points than the center that is also joining the roster in Parker Kelly. What is Parker Kelly going to bring to this team?
Oh, yeah. Parker Kelly, we call him the shift disturber. That's what he does out there. He's a pest. He'll get under your skin. He's a rat, and it makes him so happy when he gets guys off his game. For his first NHL game, if you guys can find the highlights, our guy Sends Prospects does a great job on the YouTube. In his first NHL game, he had Jake Muzzin just chasing him all over the ice, and then he scored a goal. And we're like, this guy is awesome. It was right at the end of the COVID year, if I'm not mistaken. So he's just your all-around hard-working Alberta boy that was undrafted, worked his way up, played on one of the best Western Hockey League teams of the last decade, the Prince Albert Raiders, and he was a huge part of a championship team there. And then he walked into Sens development camp, earned the hardest working player award, the Jonathan Peter Award, which is a very meaningful award to the community in Ottawa. And then he goes out the next year and he splits the award again with Brady Tkachuk after signing his entry-level contract. So he won't take no for an answer if you tell him he can't do something. And I think it's going to be a big chip on his shoulder that Ottawa just didn't qualify him. They would have qualified him at $900K. They wanted more size on their fourth line. They wanted a bit more speed in the bottom 6. But Parker Kelly will never quit in a fight. And he's got some sneaky shorthanded skill offensively. I don't know what percentage of his points come shorthanded, but it's certainly a fair bit. He had 2 shorthanded goals this past season out of his 8 goals. So, he can pop them when his team's down a man.
For both of these guys, this is kind of the route that we knew the Avalanche were going to go, or had to go in the offseason, because they just did not have a lot of cap. We knew it was going to be a lot of short-term, low AAV signings. It is for both of these guys. And just based on the comments that I went, for the guys on Twitter that like the Elliot Friedmans and stuff like that, you read through the comments, and for Brannstrom, it was mostly like what we had kind of just talked about amongst the fan base or the fans. And for Kelly, it seemed like they seem like a lot of the fan base seems down that Ottawa lost him and did not bring him back.
He was a fan favorite.
I really like this signing from the Avalanche. I think he fit Brannstrom. I think the jury's out. I like the potential he has and what the Avalanche could bring out of him. Maybe I'm worried about his size, because like Kyle said, the Avalanche are undersized on the defensive end. And he kind of still goes that route as far as the size of the defenseman. What Kelly brings, what the Avalanche lost with Cogliano and Duhaime when they traded for him, I feel like Kelly comes in and takes that role. And how he was a fan favorite for you guys, I easily can see him being that on the Avalanche end.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think that, again, these second starts for players I find so intriguing, because they're brought up just in one organization, one culture. Obviously, Ottawa's missed the playoffs 7 straight years, so it's not exactly an atmosphere around the rink that's going to get the best out of everyone when you've lost 6 out of 7 or 8 out of 10 and you're kind of down. It's harder to come to the rink when you're losing. So these are character guys that you added, especially when you look at kind of the way Parker Kelly plays. I'm a huge fan of it, and he's just the best guy off the ice. He's very introspective, so he'll give you like a deeper answer than the average hockey cliche. So
Nice.
I think you're just getting a guy that if he could carve out he's the kind of guy, and Ottawa's done this a few times, and maybe with some high profile players, where the next place they go is they're almost like forever home. Like Jakob Silfverberg goes from rookie in Ottawa to Anaheim. He plays 14 years there.
Yeah.
I could see this be one of those guys, maybe not that long, but a guy who fits into the Avalanche at a low AAV, but you know what you're going to get shift in, shift out, game in, game out from a guy like Parker Kelly.
And from what I'm hearing about your analysis on Parker Kelly, where Avs fans are looking on how you're going to contribute to the roster when it comes to points and who you're going to be with, from what it sounds like in his leaving Ottawa, it feels like this is going to be a Belmar 2.0. And what he's going to bring to the roster, which the Avs have desperately been missing here lately, especially with Cogliano putting on a suit, getting behind the bench. I feel like we're getting a Belmar 2.0, which Avs fans will be really, really proud of.
Yeah, maybe. I think that what you said there too about Cogliano, maybe not the speed of Cogliano, but you're getting a guy like, I'm not sure who off the top of my head here is on your top PK unit, but he's a guy who could easily fill that role and just take a little pressure off some of the other guys in the bottom six. Like neither of these guys are going to be seismic additions. I'm not calling it 30 plus points for any of them or even that far. But I do think for a team that really just needs to plug and play depth when you have the top end talent you do in Colorado, these are two very adequate bets, especially Parker Kelly being 2 years. You kind of want to bring him in for, a longer test drive. And with Brannstrom being an RFA, like it's really low risk. But last thing I'll say about it too, it just kind of like surprised me because it happened on July 1st or 2nd, probably 2nd, I think, for Brannstrom. And it's like, I thought they had another move in their back pocket with Sam Girard. I just like the two of them coexisting on the same D core and on the same side. Like if you're a right winger on the other team, like are you nervous going into that matchup, or are you saying like I'm gonna get a lick on him every time he gets the puck behind the net? That's the one area that I kind of get a little curious about.
It'll be interesting because I you want to pencil him in on the third pairing, right? But the Avs have, I think, two guys that, one in Sam Malinsky, who was a graduate signing from them, who played a couple games last year that looked really good. And then brand new prospect, Sean Barons, right out of Denver, University of Denver, who's kind of waiting in the wings to maybe take a spot. So I think you're going to have some, a competition to get that spot. Brannstrom just, having the NHL experience, I think puts him ahead, but I think the size is a little bit of a concern overall. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun training camp, and we'll go from there. Last thing I got to ask you, Ross, totally off subject, but still within our teams. Is the Ottawa fan base over the Lars Eller goal yet?
I think so. It was a 1 year bit, We gave you a good run in Colorado last year.
Great game.
That was a great game. I think that was right after Ottawa had made the coaching change, and they were 0-5, I think, on the road trip. And you're like, we got to get one. I know it's a tough barn. You got the altitude. We need one on this trip. And it was back and forth. Ultimately, they lost out. But Ottawa's going for a third straight summer off-season championship award. So, everyone's at that high again, and then November comes and it rains down. But
what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking for this year? Because it seemed like things were going up.
Yeah.
Do you like their off-season so far this year? Do you like their off-season, or is it?
It's different, and it's not sexy like the last two have been, where they make big splashes. And I think that's a better way to go. You have to, and what Steve Staios, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys have heard Steve Staios talk. He's very, very smart. It's a big change from the last guy who was very quotable, gave us a lot of memes, but sometimes would say too much in the media. So Staios is very guarded, very reserved, and methodical would be a good approach. So throughout all last year, the only roster change, boys, was they took Boris Kachuk off of waivers and traded Tarasenko to get draft picks because he wanted to play out the season. You got to respect the veterans. It goes a long way. When you're a market like Ottawa, hey, if it wasn't working out, we took care of a veteran player. I believe that at least. So they spent all last year just hiring around different positions in the front office, in the medical staff. And then this summer, they're like, okay, we've got an approach. So we'll see how it pays off. Because on paper, I think the decor is worse. You lose Chikrin, you get Nick Jensen, who I like, but he's coming off not his best season. He's 34, and you only got a third round pick. They gave away Joseph for nothing. We'll see, but then you replace it with a few bigger, speedier guys. So the identity is clear. It's going to be a Brady Tkachuk team. It's going to be fast and physical. And I think that defensively is where the biggest question marks are. And you got one of the best goalies in the league in Linus Ullmark. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's the X factor in Ottawa, right? Like,
Sure.
can he be a full-on one period guy? Not 1A, 1B like with Jeremy Swayman. You're not alternating games anymore.
Yeah.
Linus Ullmark has to be the guy if Ottawa's going to be even close to a playoff team.
All right. Well, when it gets closer, we'll get Brandon in here, and all four of us will jump on, and before the season starts, maybe see where we stand, because things are going to be different for the Avs. We know that with Landeskog and Nichushkin. Maybe we'll have an understanding of where they're at. So
hey, it's early in the season. The first meeting in Colorado, October 27th. So why don't we circle right around there?
Okay, let's do that.
All right, sweet.
That. Sounds good. All right, Ross. Really appreciate you coming on, man. We'll do it again very soon.
Always.
All right. Tell everybody where they can
boys.
find you if they want to follow you on socials.
Yeah, if you want to chirp us, you can find us at Send Central on Twitter. And subscription to the YouTube goes a long way. Kyle, Chris, really appreciate you guys. Love the work that you do. And always a pleasure to join you.
All right, Ross. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
we'll be right
man.
back. All right. All right, so welcome back from the break and the interview with Ross. What'd you think? Did it give you a different perspective, a different vibe on the two guys that we brought in from Ottawa?
Yeah, because everybody's first instinct is, oh my God, is he going to bring us 40 points, 50 points? But like with Ross, he kind of made it like you kind of understand their role and what they're going to be bringing. You got to plug that into the roster, and I look forward to the contributions and how it blends with the Avalanche system. So yes, I feel better now.
Yeah, I think look, we got guys that should know their role in the expectations. So I mentioned Jonathan Drouin in the segment, but I'm not expecting Jonathan Drouin production. All I meant by that was like, they can turn it around and give you what kind of is expected. And what we're expecting from these guys is to play their roles, play them well. Can they do it with the Avs? Remains to be seen, but got to give them a shot. Why not?
Yeah, and with Parker Kelly possibly being like a Belmar in the locker room, a fan favorite, like a glue, just a motor to get things going. I mean, it'd be nice and needed.
I'm gonna like him, see where he goes. But all right, last thing that we want to get to on today's episode is I know maybe there's not a lot of people listening to, what was that, by the way?
The devil.
Listening to this particular show, who maybe don't keep up with what's going on with the Dallas Stars, understandably so. If you don't, or even if you do, the Stars announced on Monday that they have a new streaming service coming out, and I think they're the second team to do it. I want to say the Florida Panthers did it as well.
Vegas.
Right? Was it? Well, Vegas last year, but I think you have to pay for that one if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I know Florida. I think everybody's getting away from Bally.
That's the thing here. Yeah. And I'm almost positive Florida just announced this last week, and the Stars did on Monday that they are coming out with a streaming app and platform
called Victory.
That Victory Plus, I believe it is. Everything is Plus or Max or whatever. And you can watch Dallas Stars games for free all year long, every game, if you're in that market. It's not like, if you're a Stars fan living in, Arizona, you get it. No, you got to be within the market, but it's free. And I think, fans all over are like, where is that for our team? I think Avalanche fans are very much saying that with this never ending saga going on between Altitude and Comcast. They've been wanting and hoping and wishing that Altitude to come out something with an app that I think fans would pay for. And now teams are going the free route. It's like, this is changing the dynamic here. And this is only the beginning. If teams are doing this and they show that it's successful, you're going to make money based just on ad revenue. I think you're going to see a lot more of this.
And not only are you going to see a lot more of it, it's just going to make the Avalanche situation even dumber. Like, this has been going on so long.
It's crazy.
Why couldn't the Cronkies come up with this first? Why couldn't they be the leading edge of this? If we're going to be held up in the courts and be going back and forth, why couldn't they come out with, I don't know, altitude plus 95 and then upgrade to 98 if you don't want ads? I don't know. It's just, why
Or
couldn't
call
they
it
be
Yeti Plus, and then Utah can't use it.
there you go, trademark it. But like,
Yeah.
it just makes sense. Like, you solve so many problems. You get Avalanche games to everybody in Denver.
Mhm.
This is the way things are going. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to see it like really roll out. And these could be like individual team-owned networks and back to the glory days.
I mean, like, you can get altitude in on different modes, but Comcast is like the big one that you just can't get it through them right now. I think on Fubo TV you can get it through satellite. You can still get it, but if like you're saying, like if the Cronkies really wanted to be at the forefront of any, not even the forefront, because there are other teams and other leagues that do this.
Mm-hmm.
You've had, I mean, how long has this been going on now? For 4 years?
Yeah,
Maybe 5.
God.
I've lost track. That's how long it's been going on. I
think it's gone on through COVID.
Yeah, I think it has. To not come out with anything in that amount of time, while the Bally's thing has been about a year, and Dallas is like, all right, we'll come out with our own, and they turn around in a year and put something out. Same thing with the Panthers. Yeah, Vegas did it last year, but you have other teams and other sports. Like MSG has an app that I think is that one's like $20 or $30 a month. That's just, I mean, that's just ridiculous. The Yankees have one with the Yes Network. Like, the teams do this stuff, and there is a market for this stuff. Fans want it, and now that we're going a free route, man, like that, all you get. I just got an email the other day from Spotify that my Spotify account is going up. We got the family plan. I think it's like $16.99. So now it's going up to $19.99. Everything goes up. I have YouTube TV is my cable subscriber. When I first got YouTube TV, it was $42. It's about 82 now.
Yep.
So everything just increases and goes up no matter what it is. Cost of everything goes up. To get something that's huge, a sport, a major sport in a major market, is giving their fans the access to the team to watch their games for no charge. I don't like to give the Stars credit for a lot, but you have to on this. This is a big move, and I credit them. And if I have it right with the Panthers, if they're doing it as well, I credit both of them for hopefully starting this freemium, way to watch this sport. And I hope the Avalanche follow suit sooner or later.
I honestly feel like it's a little bit of an intentional dig at the Avs. Like, this has been widely publicized, this altitude Comcast thing, league wide. And for Dallas to do this free is almost like not just unveiling something that the fans want, but turning to Colorado and saying, now what?
I can't imagine that was the main reason why they wanted to do this. But now that they've done it, they can look at every team that doesn't have this, even the teams that do have it and charge, be like, hey, we're doing it for nothing. So
watch their popularity skyrocket.
Good. I mean, and the numbers will be the numbers, and they can show the proof and say, like, hey, this works and we're profiting from it because of ad revenue. And I think just other teams are going to fall in line. I really do. So interesting. Very, very interesting. We'll see if the Avs kind of maybe learn something and see that other teams are doing this and maybe jump in, because that'd be nice. So
in a decade, every team will have their own app, and it'll all be under the NHL banner. Prepare yourself.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That is going to wrap it up for today's episode. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. So for Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we will see you guys tomorrow.